Hello, everyone, and welcome to our video on social factors and their influence on the linguistic choices you make. Here, I'm going to quickly review Dr. Janet Holmes' Social Dimensions Framework, which can help us better conceptualize and compartmentalize the influence that social factors have on our use of language. To quote Dr. Holmes, language provides a variety of ways of saying the same thing. And the choices we make on how to say something and what to say provides insight into our social identities and the social influences around us. People adjust their language to fit the social context. Sometimes these adjustments are realized through lexical choices, such as the difference between who we say hey to and who we say hello to, or who we address by calling babe versus who we might address more formally, for example, saying Mr. Murray. Sometimes these adjustments are realized through sound, such as I went running instead of saying I went runnin' and dropping that final G sound. Maybe there are different situations where we use different syntactic constructions, such as the difference between he don't know me and he doesn't know me. Perhaps certain situations allow us to express more explicit anger by saying, I'm so angry, versus something a little more obscure like, that's peculiar. Maybe depending on the person we're talking to, we're not able to be bossy or direct. So you say, would you mind turning on the lights? Rather than saying, turn on the lights. As I said, language provides a variety of ways of saying the same thing. And each of these examples is just that. But yet each example, such as hey versus hello, is different in terms of fit. Some ways of speaking fit better in certain situations with certain people than in and with others. Without even necessarily being conscious of it, people adjust their language to fit the context because there are a variety of social factors at play. And analyzing these social factors can help us understand why someone is using a certain variety of language. These factors include the participants, who is speaking and who is being spoken to. It also includes the setting and context of the interaction. Not only that, but the topic of conversation matters, and so does the communication function of the conversation. So when we explore the way we use language in different settings, we can use these social factors as a way to explore how and why we shift our use of language. And to help us analyze use, we can use Holmes' social dimension scale to differentiate these various social factors. This scale consists of 4 to 5 subscales called social distance, status, formality, and functional. And they provide a useful framework for discussing language and understanding what is affecting the way we communicate. These scales give us a way to compartmentalize the social factors that influence us to change the way we speak and the language variety we use. So let's dive in. I think we could all agree that how well we know someone plays an important role in how we choose to communicate with them. So here we have the solidarity social distance scale. Solidarity means a sense of unity or togetherness. So is the person we're talking to a stranger or someone we know? Is this person someone we trust or someone we don't trust? How much of a relationship exists between you and this person? We make explicit language choices that are protective and reflective of how well we know someone. Another social component is status. Status is related to social ranking. Is this person equal to, below, or above you in some way? There are a lot of factors that define status. For one, it could be role-based. So in a home, a parent has a higher role than a child. I know this because as a child, I'm more likely to give respect and take orders from my parent than I am my sibling, who's likely equal in status to me. At a university, I'm a faculty member, and my career status may be above that of a student, but it's below that of a dean or a president. Status could also be financial. Who has more or less assets? Status could also be gender affiliated. What determines status could be a number of different variables that you'll need to consider, but it certainly influences the way we choose to communicate with the person. We have to also consider the social setting and the type of interaction, which we do with the formality scale. What is the setting of your conversation? Are you at a bank? Are you in a church? Are you on the phone with someone or are you texting them? What type of interaction is this? The formalness of the interaction will impact whether or not you want to use a formal variety of language, just as the formalness of an event impacts the clothing we decide to wear. On the one hand, formality is usually highly influenced by the relationship you have with the person, so the social distance, and also the status difference. However, the setting can also have its own influence on your linguistic choices. Holmes gives the example of being in court at the courthouse and how very formal settings will influence your language regardless of the relationship between the speakers. Finally, we need to consider the purpose of the interaction. Language serves many functions, but these two scales capture how we use language to transfer information and feelings. The referential scales measure how informationally driven the interaction is, such as sharing directions to get somewhere or attending a university lecture. The affective scale measures the emotional content of the interaction and indicates how someone feels about the topic and or the purpose of the interaction, such as complimenting a friend's new haircut or saying you're feeling fat today. High information content tends to have less effective content, and high effective content tends to have little information content. However, these two scales can be interrelated. For example, if I said, I have been teaching for over 5 years, but I still dislike grading. On the one hand, this example is highly referential. It shares a lot of information. I'm a teacher, I've done it for 5 years, but it's also highly effective. It reflects my highly negative attitude towards grading. Analyzing these social factors using these scales can help us understand why someone is using a certain variety of language. As we wrap up, there are some things I want you to keep in mind. First, not every social factor is necessarily at play all at once. Secondly, I started this video off by sharing some examples of different ways to use language within English, but I want you to think on a much larger scale than just those examples. These social factors impact the variety of language you use within the same language, but for individuals who are bilingual or multilingual, these same social factors influence which language you choose to speak at a given time. Thirdly, you may or may not be completely conscious of the different ways you use language, but you are doing it. And I hope this video and this framework helps bring these shifts to a conscious level. Finally, for any analytical thinkers out there, what happens if you don't modify the way you use language given the various social factors at play in a situation? So maybe you're thinking, no, I don't do that. I speak the same in every situation. To which I have two responses. One, you either need to spend more time really reflecting and observing the way you speak, because you likely do change and modify your speech. And two, if you really don't shift the way you speak, you're likely not successful in a lot of your communication events. In other words, you're probably coming off as rude or inappropriate. And we'll explore this concept under the notion of impoliteness in another video. But that's all I have to say for now. See you guys later.